I used to think that when something was wrong with your body, you could trust your family to believe you. I used to think that going to a doctor meant getting answers, not lies. And I never imagined that the person who would betray me most would be the woman who introduced herself to me with a hug and the words, "Welcome to the family." My name is Rachel. I was 29 when everything started. It began as a dull ache behind my eyes, then exhaustion, then pain, deep, invisible, unrelenting. I wasn't just tired, I was breaking. My husband, Ethan, was supportive at first. He'd bring me tea, rub my back, tell me to take it easy. But that changed quickly once his mother got involved. Linda, elegant, controlling, perfectly polished with sharp smiles and sharper words. She never liked me, not really, she tolerated me, because Ethan loved me. But once I started getting sick, she saw her opportunity. It was a Sunday afternoon when she first said it, like a joke. I was lying on the couch, head pounding, arms trembling, and she laughed softly and said, "Rachel always was a little dramatic, wasn't she?" I looked at Ethan. He didn't say anything, just kept scrolling through his phone. The symptoms got worse. I had trouble walking some days. Other days I couldn't keep food down. But every time we saw Dr. Malcolm, our family physician, the answer was the same. "You're fine. Your tests are normal. It's probably stress." I tried to believe him, but I knew my body, and something wasn't right. One night I collapsed in the kitchen. Ethan caught me. I thought that would finally convince him. But Linda showed up the next morning carrying vitamin supplements and a smile that made my skin crawl. This is just what happens when women don't take care of themselves. You need discipline, Rachel, not drama. Eventually, Ethan stopped coming to my appointments. He said it made him anxious, so I went alone. Dr. Malcolm kept insisting nothing was wrong. Maybe anxiety, maybe a touch of depression. And that's when I started to feel like I was losing my mind. Until one day, I saw something. I was leaving his office, my head spinning again with confusion, when I passed his front desk and overheard him on a call. I paused. He didn't know I could hear him. "No, she still doesn't suspect anything. Yes, I've got the paperwork handled. You'll get the next batch of reports Monday." I froze. My name was on the file in his hand, and I knew who he was talking to. Linda. That night I waited for Ethan to get home, and I told him everything. He stared at me, expressionless. Then he said, "You really think my mother is bribing our doctor to pretend you're not sick?" "Yes," I whispered. I heard him. He scoffed. "Rachel, that's insane." Then he turned away. Just like that. The next morning, Linda showed up again, this time with a smile that wasn't even trying to be warm. She sat across from me in my own living room and said, "You've had your fun, but Ethan needs someone strong, someone stable. If you can't be that, maybe you don't belong here." I felt like I was sinking. Every time I reached for help, the ground shifted underneath me. The pain got worse, but the worst part? The way people looked at me like I was broken, or worse, like I was lying. A week later, I got a call from the lab, a technician, someone new. She said, "Hi, Rachel, we have your blood results, and I just want to confirm. Do you know your file was marked as archived before today's date?" I blinked. "What? No, I just had blood drawn yesterday." She paused. "I'm not supposed to say this, but someone has been manually updating your test record dates. That's not protocol. You might want to request a full audit." My hand shook as I hung up. Now I wasn't just suspicious, I had proof. Someone was tampering with my medical files, and I knew exactly who. But the real betrayal? That was still coming, because the next day, Linda hosted a family dinner. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was a chance to talk, to clear the air. Instead, it was an ambush, in front of Ethan, his cousins, his aunt and uncle, even his boss. Linda stood up with her wine glass and said, "We're all so worried about Rachel. She's been unwell for some time now. Mentally, emotionally. It's been hard." I sat there frozen. She smiled sweetly. "We're working with professionals to get her the help she needs. Sometimes stress can cause people to imagine things like illnesses that aren't there." Everyone turned to me, pitying, silent. And Ethan? He said nothing. I felt the world tilt. She had stolen the narrative. I wasn't the victim. I was the problem, and no one was on my side. After that dinner, I didn't sleep for 2 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Linda's face, calm, polished, and cruel, standing there while she called me unstable in front of everyone I cared about. And Ethan, he didn't defend me, didn't touch me, didn't even look me in the eye when we got home. He just said, "You embarrassed her," and went to sleep on the couch. I felt like a ghost, worse than sick, worse than alone. I felt erased, but something had changed in me. It was like a switch flipped. I'd begged for help. I'd cried for sympathy. Now, I wanted truth, and I was done playing nice to get it. The next morning, I made a plan. I called the lab again and asked to speak with the technician who flagged my file. Her name was Marisol. When I told her what was happening, she hesitated. Then she said quietly, "I don't want to lose my job, but I can tell you this. Your results were altered. Your white blood cell counts were sky high. Someone rewrote them to look normal." I froze. What does that mean? She lowered her voice. "It means you may have something serious and someone doesn't want you to know." I booked an appointment that same day with a completely new doctor at a private clinic in the next town over. No one knew where I was going. I used cash, no digital trail. And that's where everything started to come undone. The new doctor, Dr. Sloan, was kind, attentive, thorough. He didn't roll his eyes, he didn't suggest therapy, he ordered full panels, scans, and a full physical. 2 days later, he called me in. "Rachel, we found something." I braced myself. He pointed to a scan. "Your immune system is attacking your joints and nerves. Based on your symptoms and labs, I believe you have early-stage lupus." Tears filled my eyes, not because I was afraid, but because, for the first time in months, someone believed me. I told him everything, about Dr. Malcolm, about the altered reports, about Linda. He took notes, lots of them. Then he said, "You need to report this. This is not just medical malpractice, it's a conspiracy to endanger your health." I went straight to the state medical board, filed a report, attached Marisol's statement, and submitted my new diagnosis from Dr. Sloan. They opened an investigation immediately. Meanwhile, Ethan barely noticed I was gone. Linda, however, she did. She showed up at my door 2 days later. This time, no smile, just sharp words. "You think you're clever? Running around, spreading lies about good doctors and good people?" I stared at her. "I have proof now." Her eyes narrowed. "You're playing a dangerous game, Rachel. Be careful. Not every sick girl gets sympathy. Some get committed." I slammed the door in her face, but her words haunted me. She wasn't done. She was threatening me now. And I finally realized this wasn't just about control. It was about something deeper, something darker. That night I went through Ethan's study while he was asleep. Linda had given him that desk. He rarely used it, but I had a feeling. And I was right. Tucked inside one of the locked drawers, which I picked open with a hairpin, was a file. Inside, copies of my altered medical reports, notes with Linda's handwriting, timelines, drug names, even practice signatures, and at the very bottom, a power of attorney document half filled out with Ethan's name as legal proxy in case of psychological decline. My blood ran cold. They were planning to have me declared mentally unfit. And once that happened, Ethan would control everything. My bank account, my property, my medical decisions. Linda didn't just want me silenced. She wanted me gone. I copied everything, scanned the documents, emailed them to myself and to Dr. Sloan. And for the first time in months, I felt power returning to my bones. They wanted me to doubt myself. They wanted me quiet. But now, I was gathering fire and I was going to burn their lies down. The next day, I confronted Ethan. I held up the documents. "What is this?" He looked stunned. Not guilty, just caught. "Where did you get that? Why does your mother want me declared unfit? Why are you letting her do this?" He rubbed his forehead. "It's complicated. Try me." He didn't say much, but he said enough. "She said it was for the best, that you weren't strong enough, that if we waited, you'd ruin everything. So you were going to lock me up, steal my life?" He looked down. I didn't want to lose the house. My stomach turned. That was it. Not love, not concern. The house. I left that night. Didn't look back. Went straight to Nora, my oldest friend, who'd been trying to reach me for weeks. She hugged me, no questions asked, and I broke down in her arms. The next morning, I got a call. Dr. Malcolm had been suspended. The medical board found evidence of falsified documents, bribes, and unethical communication with non-medical parties. When news broke that Dr. Malcolm had been suspended, it didn't take long for whispers to start. People began asking questions. Some who had believed Linda's version of events weren't so sure anymore. But Linda wasn't the type to back down. She was the type to go louder. She went online. She posted a long, carefully crafted message on her social media, where she had hundreds of followers from charity clubs, church groups, and high society luncheons. My heart is heavy as I share that our family has been targeted by someone we trusted. Rachel is deeply unwell and has made dangerous accusations that threaten to destroy the lives of those who have only ever cared for her. We are praying for her recovery. The comments poured in. Sending love. She's lucky to have you, Linda. Stay strong for Ethan. I read it all from Nora's apartment, trembling with rage. I didn't have Linda's platform. I didn't have her money, her charm, or her years of curated reputation. But what I did have was the truth and evidence. And now, I had no reason to be quiet. So I shared my own post. I told my story. I posted screenshots of the falsified reports, the power of attorney papers, the recordings I'd taken of Linda. Cold and calculated, and the verified statement from Dr. Sloan with my real diagnosis. At first, silence. Then the dam broke. Messages came flooding in, from women who'd experienced the same thing, from people who had seen Linda's post and doubted it, from friends I thought I'd lost, even from Ethan's cousin who messaged, I always knew something was off about your marriage. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. But Linda wasn't done. She knew she was losing the narrative, so she did something drastic. 2 days later, I got a call from the hospital. Ethan had been in a car accident, minor, but he was shaken, concussed. They asked if I was listed as next of kin. I paused, stunned that I still was. And then I made a decision. I went to see him. When I walked into the hospital room, Linda was already there. She froze when she saw me. Her expression went from shock to venom in seconds. "You don't belong here." I held my ground. "I'm still legally his wife." Ethan blinked at me from the bed, dazed and groggy. "Rachel." Linda leaned over and whispered something in his ear. He turned away. A nurse walked in with a clipboard, asked for confirmation of medical proxies. Linda opened her mouth, but I cut in. "Actually, you'll want to double-check the file. I believe Linda's influence on his records is currently under investigation." The nurse raised an eyebrow, then checked, then left the room. Linda's face went pale. I followed her into the hallway. She hissed, "Do you really think you can win this?" I didn't answer with words. I handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, a cease and desist letter from my attorney, along with the full report from the medical board and a copy of the email chain between her and Dr. Malcolm, which the board had recovered. She clutched it in shaking hands. "You little—" "Careful," I said. "You're not in control anymore." That was the last time I saw her face to face. She left the hospital that night and didn't return. The next morning, I received word that Linda had resigned from all 3 boards she sat on. Charity, hospital, local council, all gone. She tried to scrub the internet, but it was too late. Her name was now tied to my story. Ethan called me a week later. He sounded broken. He didn't apologize, but he said something that surprised me. "I believed her because it was easier than believing I failed you." I said nothing. Because I didn't need closure from him. I'd already survived worse than silence. I filed for divorce that month. Quick, clean, no contest. Because the evidence against Linda was public, Ethan didn't dare fight me on anything. The house, mine. The car, I didn't even want it. My freedom, priceless. And then, something incredible happened. A journalist, someone from a major national outlet, reached out. They wanted to feature my story in a piece on medical gaslighting and abuse of power by family members. I agreed. Not to be famous, but to make sure other women knew, if it's happening to you, you're not imagining it. The story went viral. And suddenly I wasn't just a sick girl with a vindictive mother-in-law. I was a survivor and a voice, and I was just getting started. In the months after the article was published, everything changed. Not instantly, not dramatically, but quietly. The kind of healing that creeps in after a long, bitter winter. I started to feel like myself again, only different. Stronger, sharper, unapologetically aware of how fragile safety really is. I joined an online support group for women who had experienced medical gaslighting or abuse from in-laws. The first meeting broke me, then rebuilt me. Story after story echoed mine. Women dismissed by doctors, shamed by spouses, betrayed by those who should have protected them. Some had been silenced. Some were still fighting, and some never got the chance. That's when I knew. I couldn't just move on. I had to speak louder, not for me anymore, for them. I launched a podcast. It started small, just my story and my voice, raw and unfiltered. But it spread, Women shared it, men listened to it, even some doctors wrote in and said it changed how they approached patients. One episode every week, one survivor each time, their voices, their pain, their power, the title. She wasn't lying. It climbed the charts within a month. Not because I was special, but because the world was full of Rachels, and they were finally being heard. Meanwhile, Linda's downfall continued. The medical board formally banned Dr. Malcolm from practicing medicine. He faced criminal charges. Linda avoided jail, but not disgrace. The organization that once called her visionary now removed her name from plaques and newsletters. Ethan moved out of state. I didn't care where. He was just another part of the illness I had to recover from. Then one day I got a letter from Marisol, the lab technician. She wrote, "I was scared to speak up, but you made me brave. I'm in a new job now and I'm training to become a patient advocate. Thank you for giving me the courage to leave that place." I cried for a long time after that, because the thing I once believed had destroyed me had now become something bigger. I bought a new home, small, peaceful, a little garden out front that I tend to every morning. My health is still a work in progress. Lupus doesn't disappear, but I have a real doctor now, a real plan, and people who see me, truly see me. Sometimes I still think about the early days, how alone I felt, how twisted it was to be told I was imagining the pain that was stealing my life, and how close I came to believing them. But the truth is this: they underestimated me. They thought I was weak because I was sick, because I cried, because I begged, because I broke. But broken doesn't mean finished. And now, I stand taller than I ever did before. People ask me if I regret marrying Ethan, if I wish I'd never met Linda. But the truth, without them I might never have learned how loud my voice could be. I might never have realized that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about taking your life back, piece by piece, word by word. So now, when people ask me what happened, I smile and say, "They tried to write me off, but I wrote myself back in. And this time, I'm the only one holding the pen."